Hello learners, this is Excel with Habiba. I am back with another class, that is Classroom Implications of Educational Psychology. Continuation to that, we have started with the topic individual differences. Under that, today we are going to discuss in detail. I have given a gist in the previous class. Today we are going to discuss in detail about the theories of intelligence with special emphasis to multiple intelligence, IQ, assessment of intelligence, EQ and creativity. Let's start with first. Before understanding about the multiple intelligence, theories of intelligence, let's understand the definition of intelligence first. Intelligence, as I said in the previous class, the definition, a hypothetical construct which refers to a higher level of abstract thought process. That means intelligence can be defined as the ability to learn from experience, to think rationally, and to deal effectively with others. That is the major meaning of definition. Now, regarding the theories of intelligence, Gardner has given the theory of intelligence, that is multiple intelligence. We are going to discuss these multiple intelligence categories one by one quickly. The first one, linguistic. People who are high on this type of intelligence have good linguistic abilities, that is, they can easily articulate and express their thoughts by choosing the most appropriate words. They can easily play with the words. For example, poets and writers have a higher level of linguistic abilities. Now, secondly, musical. That is, people high on this are knowledgeable and sensitive to music. They can manipulate music pattern to create different music. People carrying this intelligence are good singers, play musical instruments, and are good music composers. Thirdly, logical mathematical. This involves having the ability to think critically and work on abstract problems. Such people have a scientific aptitude and are good with numbers and abstract problems. Scientists have a higher level of this intelligence. Scientists are the example of this intelligence. Nextly, spatial intelligence. This spatial intelligence is related to one's ability to manipulate and use visual images of mental images. For example, navigators, pilots, architects and painters have this intelligence. Nextly, the fifth one is bodily kinesthetic. It is the ability to control and train your body or part of it for construction of products and problem solving. Now, people serving in the military, these are examples of this intelligence. These people are people serving in the military, intelligence agencies, sports person, actors and dancers have higher levels of bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Now, the sixth one, intrapersonal. That is, people who are aware of one's own feelings. Intra means inner. Feelings, emotions, needs and motives are having with level of intrapersonal intelligence. Philosophers, example, philosophers and spiritual leaders are high on intrapersonal intelligence. Now, the seventh one, interpersonal. That is, your ability to understand other person's behavior, motive and feelings. Inter means other persons, understanding about the other persons. Intra means inner self. Intra is understanding the other people. People high on this intelligence use their understanding of other people to develop a comfortable bond with other people. Like, for example, counselors, politicians, teachers, social workers are high on interpersonal intelligence. So later, the eighth one, naturalist. It refers to being sensitive to different features of nature. The individual who are highly naturalists have compassion for nature and are usually nature lovers. For example, hunters, wildlifers, botanists possess a higher level of this intelligence. So each individual has a unique combination of these intelligences, multiple intelligences, which explain the individual differences. That means one individual is different from other. So Gardner and his colleagues proposed that the typical paper pencil tests for intelligence do not measure many aspects of intelligence, so such as interpersonal ability. Many students performed poorly on the intelligence test but become great leaders because of their refined interpersonal qualities. That means one person is different from other, suggesting that the intelligence is more than your mathematical, verbal and analytical abilities measured by the traditional intelligence test. Now the next one is we understood all the multiple intelligence what are given by Gardner. Now let's go with the assessment of intelligence. So Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon were attributed with the first attempt to measure intelligence scientifically. In 1905 they developed first intelligence test. The first intelligence test known as Binet-Simon intelligence scale. Later in 1908 they coined a term that is mental age, MA, to measure the intellectual ability of a person in comparison to his or her fellow age group, whereas chronological age, that is CA, refers to person's biological age. Now according to Binet, if a child has mental age more than his chronological age, then he or she will be classified as bright. If the child scores MA below than his or her CA, then he or she should be identified as mentally retarded. In 1912, William Stern came with the concept called intelligent quotient, that is IQ. It is derived by dividing MA with CA and multiplying the result with 100. IQ formula is given here. You can understand, if MA equals CA, then your IQ will be 100. If your MA was less than CA, then your IQ will be less than 100. Now in this normal distribution, following scores suggest different types of intelligence abilities. IQ range descriptive label. You can pause here and you can see the ranges here from above 130 to below 25 has been given in this table. Now IQ, that is mental age divided by chronological age, according to Wechsler, IQ attained equal to attained or actual score divided by expected mean score for age, that is IQ. Now let's understand next one, that is EQ, that is emotional quotient, or it is also called as emotional intelligence, is the ability to perceive, control and manage one's emotions effectively and appropriately in different situations. Now it involves having a stable mindset, a positive outlook on the world. Now let's understand why it is important. EQ, emotional quotient, is instrumental in supporting and promoting a person's IQ, that is intelligent quotients, for success in life. EQ enables us to deal with problems and obstacles mindfully, creating awareness of their own and others' emotions and helping control, care for and manage them more effectively. Now there are 5 components of this emotional intelligence. Let's understand one by one. First one is self-awareness, that is the awareness of one's emotions, self, which can affect thoughts and behavior. It includes recognizing strengths and weaknesses and having self-confidence. Secondly, self-management, that means the ability to control, care for and manage emotions. It involves thinking before acting, being open-minded and adapting to situations. Next, third one is social awareness, that means the ability to perceive and understand others' emotions, emphasize with them and understand others' emotional nature. It also includes appropriate ways of dealing with others. The fourth one is relationship management, that means the ability to effectively develop and maintain relationship. It includes clear communication, easy to understand, being an example and inspiration to others and resolving conflicts. Now lastly, self-motivation. That means having strong desires and motivations to achieve goals, perceive in efforts and not be discouraged by obstacles. So these are the 5 components of EQ. Now let's understand how many elements does emotional intelligence have. Emotional intelligence consists of 3 elements. Firstly, positive aspects, that is having emotional readiness to coexist with others. That means knowing how to control one's emotions, accepting one's mistakes, forgiving others' mistakes, and knowing to give and take. So this is the first one, that is positive aspect. Then the second one is competence aspect. That means possessing the motivation to develop oneself for success here. Developing oneself for success. So here what happens? Being able to adapt to different problems and situations, that is very important. The determination to improve oneself and self-confidence are very important. Making decisions to solve problems in steps effectively and being flexible. Having the ability to build good relationships with others. Be assertive. Then being able to express different opinions constructively. Be able to motivate people and determination to achieve a goal. The next one is well-being aspects, that is having a positive attitude, thinking positively and feeling proud of oneself, that is self-respect, recognizing self-worth and self-respect. So being resilient in the face of adversity, when problems are there, challenges are there, by managing stress and handling emotions effectively. So having self-satisfaction, a sense of humor, enjoying life, knowing how to unwind and possess equanimity. So these aspects collectively contribute to emotional intelligence and its development. Emotional quotient is also known as emotional intelligence. So the next one, that is how to develop EQ or emotional intelligence. Let's quickly understand the points here. The purpose of developing EQ or emotional intelligence is to help deepen self-understanding, increase self-awareness, and enable individuals to control and manage their emotions effectively. Like individuals with emotional maturity, it helps understand emotions impacting thoughts and actions. Now let's understand one by one. That is, the following are the approaches for developing EQ or emotional intelligence. First one is practicing self-awareness. That means cultivate mindfulness or practice mediation to be aware of one's emotions to respond appropriately to others. That's such as recognizing when feeling angry or disappointed and being able to subdue them to express appropriate demeanor and negotiate with reason. So engage in self-reflection, that is very important. Secondly, recognizing how others feel. That means apart from self-awareness, the ability to discern others' emotions is crucial for emotional intelligence. That means assess and understand others' feelings, perceptions, and understanding in response to our communication. How we talk, what will be the response of the others, including verbal and non-verbal cues. Nextly, practicing active listening skills. Active listening involves focused attention on the conversational partner, capturing key points, tone. Nowadays, we never think of listening to people. Just we want to give our feelings and we communicate, but we don't tend to give time to others to listen. That is, listening is very important. Then clear and concise communication. That means point to point. Nobody will listen if you drag things along. So communication skills are indicative of emotional intelligence. Clear, straight to the point communication and the courage to constructively express differing opinions help achieve a collaborative goal. That is, in group communication it occurs. Then practicing a positive mindset, which is very, very important. Maintaining a positive mindset is fundamental to emotional intelligence. Then emphasizing with others, that is being mindful of others' feelings, is another important aspect. Then open-mindedness, that is emotional intelligent individuals are easily accessible because they possess good listening skills. They can consider and understand others' perspectives. Then listening to others' feedback, that is emotional intelligent individuals are open-minded, pay attention to what people say also. So this is very important. Even they should be ready to take the feedback and suggestions and opinions and use it as a tool for personal growth and refinement of communication skills. We should not take it as negative. Remain calm under pressure. That is very important. Emotional intelligence people can cope with tensions, high pressure situations which are negative. Also, they tend to create them as spotted with a positive attitude. Then keeping calm, focusing on the end goal, and steadfast determination for success are notable attributes of emotionally intelligent people. So now the next one, EQ. Why it is a crucial attribute? This is a high IQ alone may not be sufficient for success in life. On the contrary, average IQ paired with high EQ are highly conducive to long-term happiness and success. So high EQ helps with gaining new knowledge, enhancing positive thinking, speaking and actions, elevating mood and mind, and inspiring success. So developing emotional intelligence requires consistent practice and self-reflection. So following these guidelines can improve their overall emotional intelligence and enhance EQ. The next one is now creativity. So one of the key aspects of creativity is divergent thinking, not thinking like anyone else, not following people, thinking of ourselves. It consists of 4 processes or aspects such as fluency, flexibility, originality, and elaboration. Fluency means refers to how rapidly the person comes up with ideas. For example, write words containing a specified letter like P, that means pot, hop, option, etc. That means word fluency there should be. When we use these words, pronounce the P correctly. That means pot, hop, option. P is here given. Associational fluency is given here. Next, flexibility. That means refers to the ability to produce a large variety of ideas, such as thinking of varied uses of a particular object. For example, list the different ways of using a rope or a newspaper. It also includes activities to make objects, etc. That means example, drawing specified objects using a set of given figures. Then originality refers to the uniqueness or novelty of ideas. That means it is the ability to produce ideas that are unusual, statistically infrequent, and not obvious. So this is originality. Then elaboration, 4th one. It involves the ability to develop and describe an idea, such as consequences of a hypothetical event. For example, what would happen if no sleep is required? So we all exhibit these aspects of creativity in our day-to-day life in various degrees. So there are also people like artists or designers, for example, who engage in creative work as their profession and are publicly acclaimed. So this remarks a difference between the ordinary everyday little creativity and the high creativity or small c or big C. So the little c creativity is marked by personal effectiveness, thinking in terms of possibilities facing. Then big C, this is can do attitude is important in this. Then big C creativity is focused more on the significant contribution of selected people who have excelled in various fields. Now let's see what are the stages of creativity here. Creativity is a complex process. It does not come all of a sudden. It takes time, but creative ideas appear all of a sudden like a flash of lightning. According to Graham Walsh in the year 1926, there are 4 main stages in creativity. They are preparation, incubation, inspiration, verification. Let's quickly understand what is preparation here. The person in this stage tries to understand the problem. As Einstein had said, the formulation of a problem is often more essential than its solution. So we have to focus. Thus, focus needs to be more on knowledge about the problem in detail. Then incubation, this is the time out phase where the individual does not engage in any activity. At least there is no overt activity, but the processing of all the information gathered during the preparation stage goes on this stage. That means the person does not consciously or actively think about the problem, but the creative process carry on with the individual at an unconscious level. That is incubation. Nextly, inspiration. That means after the incubation stage, the person suddenly gets an insight about the solution of the problem. In other words, it results in an aha experience. A new idea or new possibilities emerge and the individual is more active and conscious in this stage. Then verification. The person then tries to evaluate and verify the things here. Under this, what happens? He verifies the things, that means about the ideas and solutions in this stage. It may result in some modifications of the solution. In some cases, the person may also need to go back to the first stage to gather or generate more information about the problem. Thus, more preparation is required. So, the process is cyclical. This process is cyclical. So, next, ways to enhance creativity. What are the ways? Children are generally observed to be more creative than adults. Creativity in children can be observed in the form of symbolic play or imaginative possibilities they engage in. However, as children grow, our process of education and socialization, focusing more on conformity, tend to suppress the creativity in them. So, and even punish them for their expression of creativity. This poses a serious challenge for the development of creative abilities in school children. So, Torrance, what he has given, Torrance in the year 1965, based on his studies on 3rd to 6th grade children, he identified 5 principles that teachers should implement in order to reward the creative behavior of students. The first one, be respectful to unusual questions. Whatever children ask the question, we should be respectful to them. Second, be respectful of imaginative creative ideas. If they imagine things also, you should encourage them. Show your students that their ideas have value. Then occasionally have students to do something for practice without the threat of evaluation. Then tie in evaluation with causes and consequences. Then encourage the self-initiated learning and evaluate it. So, the expression of creativity can be fostered by activities as simple as child's play, which stimulate the imagination. Nextly, enhancing creativity. What are the principles here fostering creativity? Let's see here. So, enhancing creativity is very important. Creative potential of an individual can be increased through various ways and methods, but there needs to be a general attitude and atmosphere of supporting or favoring creativity. Now, let's see the principles one by one. First one, introduce a variety of instructional materials need to be used to facilitate different forms of student expression. Secondly, develop a favorable attitude towards active achievement. Thirdly, provide encouragement for creative ideas and creative expression. Fourth, foster the creative abilities of children through feedback and support. Fifth, provide reinforcement for engaging in creative work. Sixth, provide a supportive environment at school and home to foster a creative personality, being self-confident, sensitive, independent, then unconventional, etc. Let's see now. We now discuss a few techniques below which can these are the which can be helpful for enhancing creativity. Let's see the three things. That is divergent thinking. What is divergent thinking? It includes thinking and behaving in different ways. It helps come up with multiple ideas that aid creativity. Further, the child can be given opportunities for original expressions in many ideas, not copying somebody else, such as through written language, rhymes, music, art, etc. Thus, fluency, originality, and flexibility in producing ideas need to be encouraged in the children. Secondly, brainstorming. As Osborne's in the year 1957, brainstorming is a group approach to encourage creativity. It is a technique where people in a group setting are required to come up with a many idea as possible without any self-censor or inhibition. Thus, they speak out whatever comes to their mind on a particular topic or issue without much thinking about it or postponing it or judging it. So, there are four basic guidelines for the group. That is, number one, evaluation of ideas with held until later, thus ruling out criticism. Secondly, the wider the idea, the better. Third, the greater the number of ideas, the better. And the fourth, people can combine two or more ideas proposed by others. So, Osborne emphasizes that the spirit of the brainstorming session need to be maintained by encouragement of each other. That is complete friendliness and relaxed mind. Lastly, synetics is a method developed by Gordon in the year 1961 that encourages the use of analogies in creative thinking. The term synetics is derived from a Greek word meaning the joining together of different and apparently irrelevant elements. The method focuses on understanding the emotional and the irrational elements of a problem, which results in creative solutions. So, the method involves personal analogy, which encourages you to place yourself directly in the situation. Then direct analogy, that encourages you to find something else that solves the problem you are examining. Third, symbolic analogy, that uses objective, then impersonal or poetic images to describe a problem. Fourth, fantasy analogy, that is frees your imagination from the boundaries of the normal world. So this is all about the theories of intelligence. I'll come up with the next class. Until then, happy learning. Thanks for your attention and time. If you like the video, please do like, share, subscribe and comment below.